Okay, welcome to Chapter 11. Chapter 11, does that mean we're going bankrupt? Okay. So, updating and troubleshooting Windows Server, page 297. So, what are the learning objectives? Understanding what updates are all about, how they work. Troubleshooting methodology when things go wrong. The startup process, it's slightly different than a normal PC. Windows servers do things slightly different. And then the business continuity. That's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, so you might want to pay attention a lot when it comes to that section. So, page 298, Understanding Windows Update. So, second Tuesday of the month is called Patch Tuesday. It's an unofficial thing that is called that. But this is when Microsoft releases majority of their patches. Now, if there's a super duper, out of cycle patch, some horrible thing happening and they need to patch it quickly for security, well, that'll just come out automatically. But most of the time, patches are released every month on the second Tuesday. Now, why the second Tuesday? What's the point here? Well, if you're in corporate America, you don't really want to do anything on Monday because Monday is just a bad day. I mean, lots of things happen over the weekend. You don't have time. Tuesday gives you a little bit of breathing room, like, okay, I have time that I can actually think about this now. And then what most people do is they do not release the patches immediately. They hang on to them maybe a day. Maybe they'll do some testing during the day and make sure everything works. And then maybe on Wednesday they'll release the patches. So they come out on Tuesday, but they're not necessarily released on Tuesday. Okay, so once again, why do they pick Tuesdays and why the second Tuesday? Well, again, the first of the month is always bad and Mondays are always bad, so they just pick second Tuesday. Okay, you guys know how this thing works. If I just go down here to start and hit the gear and go down here to search updates and oh man, I need one. Okay, fine, I'll go ahead and install one now. No big deal. These virus update things go really quickly. Okay, so it's fairly obvious that one of the things you can do is you can pause for 7 days. That's not necessarily a good idea. Change the active hours. On a server, you probably definitely do not want patches to occur at a particular time. I mean, just random time. You want to pick the time that they do them. Update history, I like this. And then advanced, received updates for other Microsoft products. Now, on a server, you probably shouldn't have any of well, that's not necessarily true. What if you had Microsoft Exchange or maybe you had SQL Server? So yeah, I'd probably want to do that. I'd rather turn that on. So not only do I get operating system patches, I also get patches for the Microsoft stuff that I've installed. Okay, cool. And then, you can do a pause and things of that nature. All right, so the options are, pause for 7 days, change the active hours because I don't want to have to reboot something in the middle of a day. View the update history. Oh, update history even tells you if they failed. Okay, you'll be able to tell, ooh, something's going on here. That's kind of cool. And then advanced options, yeah. Over metered connection. In other words, these are what they're basically saying is this is expensive. So download updates, even if it's expensive. Like if you're paying for let's say you have a cell phone backup kind of a thing, where it's a cell phone router and you're getting charged. Do I want to actually download these things while I'm in that degraded state, or should I just wait for the internet to come back? Right, that's what this is all about. And then pausing updates. Okay, so on some systems, you could also get a thing called defer feature updates. Remember we talked about how we're running an LTSC guy. And so one of the things you will not see on here is feature upgrades at all. It just won't. In other words, if a new version of Notepad came out, we would not get it. We would get security updates, which they call quality. I hate the term they use. But we don't get any feature updates. We get feature updates when we reinstall the machine. That's about it. Okay, updating Microsoft. So obviously under the advanced receive things, click on the check. Some things are going to require a reboot, right? So if you got something in that said, Microsoft SQL Server needs to be restarted, well, okay, you're just going to have to do that. So this whole concept came up as Windows as a service. That was the term that Microsoft used to describe what we're talking about. Where Windows is really just a thing that you have installed on your machine and you connect to all these, you phone home for everything that needs to be done. Okay, that's Microsoft as a service. So how does that apply to the long-term servicing channel, version of Windows 10 that we installed? We installed the education version, which I think, I don't remember if the education version is an LTSC or not. Okay, don't remember. But anyway, so the idea is you phone home to be able to get all the stuff you want done. So third-party apps. So a lot of other vendors have pigtailed on the whole idea, like Oracle and Adobe. They use the exact same Patch Tuesday cycle as Microsoft, and thank goodness they do, because I wouldn't want to have to come in and do updates on everything, independently. So big companies like Oracle, that's big. They basically have their own Patch Tuesday thing, and so it shows up, and not through here. I mean, this is just Microsoft, right? Nothing but Microsoft, nothing but net, so to speak. So it won't show up here, but it'll show up in their own little system which is similar to this. Okay, so they have to make this work, they have to have a service that runs nonstop, that phones home periodically to determine whether or not there's an update. So on my machine, if I had Oracle database, then I would have to have a service running in the background that periodically checks to see if it was an update. Again, we're talking about Windows as a service. And likewise for Adobe. Adobe has to have something running in the background. Do I like this? No. Is it required? Well, yeah. Most of the time it'd be like a tray icon down here somewhere, where it'll pop up and say, Adobe, update engine or something like that. Okay. Others, they only check the update when you launch them. So if I launch a thing, it says, hang on, let me phone home. Now, this works great for applications, because if you're not running the application, there's no need to update it. But remember now, things like Oracle and things like Adobe are running non-stop on your machine. So there's no opportunity for you to do this. So this is a good deal for standalone apps. Okay, good. Others, you're just going to have to manually do. Now, for example, I write an application that doesn't automatically update, but there's a little thing that says check for updates. Like, cool. So, for example, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down here to some sample apps that I have out there. So, for example, this guy, he doesn't phone home, but if you go here and say check for updates, he goes, you're using version 7.1, but 7.2 is update. Would you like to do it now? So it really just kind of sort of depends on, the software vendor, how they do it. The big guys do it one way. Now, let's figure out a way to find out if everything I have on my system is up to date. Not basically the same thing as Microsoft Update, but I want to check everything. So there's a really cool piece of software called Update Hub, and we're going to go get that guy now. So I'm just going to type in Update Hub. Okay, so yeah, it's a really cool thing. I'm going to go ahead and go to GitHub. I'm going to go down here and grab this guy. Okay, I just want the plain old GitHub. Now this one is going to, remember we talked about how it kind of runs as a service? So this guy is going to kind of sort of do the same thing. He's going to run as a service. Because again, he has to. I mean, it has to be running in the background to be able to get this stuff to work. Okay. So one of the first things it does is to say, hey, you haven't done anything yet, so let's go do an update. Well, darn. This is not going to work on server because it requires WinGet, which is a store application, and we really ought not be deploying anything in the store on a server. But this works really great at home, so I would recommend you do it. What I was going to show you, which I can't, is that when it comes up, it shows everything that is different from what you have. It doesn't tell you that it's a security update. Maybe, for example, I have WinZip, and I use WinZip, 14. And it comes up and says, well, the new version is WinZip 15. And I go, yes, so I don't care. In other words, it's not just security updates. It basically just goes out to the web and finds the latest version of absolutely everything that you own. Whether it's a security update or not, you have to kind of look at it yourself. So, again, don't install Windows Store app on a server. So, again, this works at home. I love this guy. All right, let's continue. So updating device drivers, page 333. Now you guys know how you do this. You go to the control panel, same old, right? In fact, I could kind of go to here and get some of this stuff, but the control panel is just, it's being phased out. You guys know that, right? I mean, slowly getting to the point where it's, all the functionality is going to be gone from the guy. Anyway, there's a thing called devices and printers. So do that. And so basically, here's all my guys. And so if there was a problem, or if there was, I could click on a server and then say, do a right click. And I could go in here and go through and do driver installation settings and things of that nature. I mean, we have all this other good stuff, system protection and device installation. I'm gonna ignore all this stuff. But anyway, that's how you would go about doing this. Now, do you want to automatically update from manufacturers? Like if I have an HP printer, or if I have a Netgear router, do I automatically want to do that? Not me. I want to be slow and deliberate on doing updates. I mean, admittedly, if my router has a security update, I'll probably do that one rather quickly. But no, not normally. I would just manually go and find the manufacturer's update and firmware updates. I don't do firmware updates lightly, and particularly if you crash from a firmware update, there's no backup that's going to get you back. It's dead. So on page 335, they talk about WSUS, Windows Server Update Service, WSUS. This is a fantastic program. I used it for years back when in Windows admin days, but Microsoft has decided, no, we want Windows as a service. So we don't want you having your own local version of update. So they're deprecating it. I love that word, deprecate. So it will go away, maybe after 25, maybe. But what was it for? What it really was is, let's say, for example, I have 100 machines and they're all identical, and a security update comes, and so that means all 100 of those guys have to go to Microsoft and get the update, the same update being transmitted across my internet link to all 100 of them. Wouldn't it make more sense to have a miniature version of the update server physically on my premises? And that way all 100 of my machines hit that guy, and it doesn't go to the internet at all. So that's what WSUS was. It was a caching service that went and got all of the updates that Microsoft had and cached them locally on your machine. Fantastic program. I can't imagine, other than marketing, why they would think that was a bad idea and to get rid of it. I mean, I'm going to use it as long as I can. So it creates a local cache of all the updates. It allows you so when an update comes, it may come in on a Thursday, and I go, whatever, I'll wait. And so I have an opportunity to test them. I can deploy them to a particular machine and make sure it works. Very cool. And of course, obviously, it saves bandwidth because I'm not going out to the outside world. And I can improve, cancel, or set an installation date. I can go ahead and say, that's good, but we got this quarterly reports are coming out. I just can't afford to have that guy shut down. So let's just go ahead and schedule that guy, this one machine. The rest of them you can go ahead and do updates on, but this one machine over here, no, I'm going to wait till Thursday. So it was a really fantastic tool for doing that. Now, I must confess, it chewed up a heck of a lot of disk space because quite literally you're downloading every single update Microsoft had. Now, you subscribe. I mean, for example, you could say, do I want Microsoft updates or, whatever. But still, if you're doing this for an outside, you're doing it for a company with 100 users, man, the storage on that machine is going to be kind of tight. Anyway, it's installed as a role in Server Manager, same old. I mean, it also installs IIS in the background because it uses the web service, independently. You don't have to do anything. So after you've done the install, all you have to do is go to each one of the machines, probably with a GPO, not manually, and point it to use the WSUS server instead of going out to the internet. So once that's done, once you got a WSUS server up and running, then you tell all the machines, hopefully via GPO, not by hand, to go there instead of going to the internet. One do things when we're not. Kind of makes sense? Okay. And then, of course, check the results to make sure it actually provides the things that you want. And then document the changes that you made. That's very important. Okay. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. You guys know how this works.